Hello everyone, welcome to Coach's Corner. Give a few minutes for people to join in. Hello Deb, how are you? Well, I hope. Just give it a minute or two for letting people in. Okay, we've got a few people on now, so we'll make a start. Hi everybody. For those who don't know me, I'm Phil Harris, one of the coaches with Nuneaton Triathlete. And I'm going to take you through some hints and tips on how to improve your bike time and speed. Hello Alex and hello Vanessa. So welcome on board. Um, Biking is definitely without a doubt my favourite discipline of the three, and probably I might be biased in saying this slightly, but the most important of the three disciplines in triathlon. It is the part which makes up typically the longest time period and definitely the longest distance of any triathlon event, and also has a massive impact on your ability to be able to perform on the run afterwards. So if you don't perform well on the bike, you're likely to be struggling on the run as well. So focusing on what you can achieve on the bike is absolutely key to improving an overall triathlon speed. But today I'm going to be purely focusing on aspects of what can make you fast on a bike. And I've broken it down into a number of areas which are the key things that you have to think about when cycling, which make a difference to your performance. Those are your aerodynamics, friction, the power that you can put through the bike, gravity, the momentum that you can carry, and what's going on in your head, your psychology. So, first of all, we'll start with the area that probably has the biggest impact of those, which is aerodynamics. And one thing to note, particularly for cycling as against the other disciplines, is that for cycling, you're reliant on a lot of technology and equipment around you, far more so than you are in swimming and in running. And therefore, it is absolutely imperative that you are working well with the machinery that's around you. That's both from an aerodynamics point of view and, as we'll come on to a bit later on, from a power point of view. So getting that right fit of bike and getting the right equipment on you is absolutely key. So what I'm going to do in each of the categories as I work them through, I'm going to talk through things that you can do free of charge to hopefully gain you some time, things that you might want to change that are going to be low to medium cost, and then things that you could change that are going to be much higher cost. And it's interesting that a lot of the lower cost things are actually things that will make the biggest difference. So starting with aerodynamics, free of charge, sort of things can you work on free of charge to make you faster on the bike. So body position. Body position is absolutely imperative in getting yourself into an aerodynamic position. I was going to try and see if I could share my screen on this. I don't think I actually can, but what I will do is try and I'm not sure I can even do that. Can I add a picture? No, I can't even add a picture. Oh, that's a shame. I was going to try and show you some images to show you some examples of what can be achieved, but it doesn't look like, and I can actually share anything on here with you. So anyway, so body position on the bike is crucial, and it's critical to get yourself into an aerodynamic position. So you're creating the least frontal drag on a bike. So if you were to think about yourself being looked at head on as you're cycling down the road, well, you want that frontal area, both the height and the width, to be as small as possible. Now, if you're riding on a TT bike or a bike with aero bars, doing things to close down the gap between your hands and your face are really key. What I will do is, as I can't seem to be able to share them, the images on here, I'll share some images on the post afterwards to show you some good examples and some bad examples, and things that you need to look out for. There's also a really good video that I found which shows um, the impact of reducing that frontal area, the massive impact of it. And literally the same person riding the same bike, applying the same power, could make a difference over a 40k time trial, 25 miles, of around 10 minutes, just by going from the worst possible place. So if they're sitting up on the handlebars of their TT bike, as against to the best position they could be in on the same bike on the aero bars, a difference of around 10 minutes, which is absolutely amazing. So body position is absolutely critical. So learn what a good body position looks like, and get yourself into it. Get yourself tucked in, get yourself nice and tight, and get your bike set up to allow you to do that. If you're riding on a road bike, riding on the drops is definitely better than being sat up on the hoods, but actually being on the hoods and tucked down. So if you imagine you're grabbing the hoods here, and your elbows are, so your forearms are parallel, and your head is down, similar to the position you'd be if you're on aero bars. That is without doubt the best position you could be on if you're on a normal road bike without any aero bars on it. Second point then, around things that you can do to save time without spending any money. No loose clothes. Tight fitting clothes what you want. Baggy clothes just create drag. You'll feel them flapping around in the wind. That flapping is slowing you down. Make sure that your clothes fit you well. They're tight. You haven't got any creases in them. That they're all pulled in nice and aero. And wear them well. And secondly, similar to that, no loose items. So either on you or on your bike. So if you've got things attached to your bike which are flapping around, again, they will create drag, as will any other items which are attached to either you or your bike you don't actually need. Excuse me. If you do have any questions as we're going along, just chuck them in the comments column, and I'll do my best to answer them. So that's the sort of free of charge stuff. On the low to medium cost things that can help you from an aero point of view, the biggest, without a doubt, thing that will make an impact to you, is coming back to the last point I was making, is around clothes. So getting a decent aero suit, tri-suit, skin suit, one with long sleeves, much better than a short sleeve one. So something with a sleeve that comes down to just above your elbow, tight fitting, properly fitting, that will make a massive difference. They reckon that on a 40k time trial, the difference between a top end skin suit, aero suit, and a normal pair of cycle shorts and cycle jersey is over 2 minutes. So again, a well-fitting aero suit is going to make a massive difference. Now, next thing, really cheap thing, only really works in TTs, won't really work on a triathlon, is shoe covers. They're just literally thin little fabric covers that go over the top of your shoes that stop your shoes creating drag themselves. You can buy them for about 10 quid from Planet X. And they will save you probably 30 seconds, believe it or not, because your feet are making an even bigger vortex through the air than any other part of your body, because they're moving. So they are a big difference, well worth having if you're planning on doing a lot of time trials. But as I said, you won't have the time to put them on if you're doing a triathlon. The next area then would be the helmet. So helmet is obviously the first thing of your body, well, possibly other than your hands, that hits anybody coming, the air that's coming towards you. So the design of your helmet is important. I've grabbed a couple of mine here. So this is my normal road helmet. Lots of holes in it, nicely ventilated, keeps you nice and cool when it's hot rides. And I then tend to get quite lots of really useful. But all of those holes create drag, even though they do their best to design the way around it. You get a couple of types of aero helmets. This looks quite similar to a road helmet in profile, so it's not got the pointy end, which means it's a lot more user friendly. But as you'll see, it comes with its own clip-on visor. There's just a couple of holes, very smooth surface, designed to be aerodynamic. Will save you a large amount of time on a long distance ride as against the normal aero helmet. The ones with the pointy tails are really not much better than that, and if you're not wearing them properly and not got in the right position, they'll actually be creating more drag. So if you've got your head down and the point sticking up, you'll be creating drag from that, which will make it even worse. So yeah, getting that getting a decent helmet is worthwhile. Getting an aero helmet, and again, you can get them. I know Planet X sell them for about £40, so they don't have to be super expensive. You don't have to buy the latest and greatest. Just have a look around or ask some people in the club if you've seen them with them. So talk about shoe covers. Next thing, which can be, you can get a low to medium cost bike fit. So going back to the body position, definitely worth investing in. I've done some basic bike fits for people at the club. I can help with that on a basic level. But if you want a full bike fit, that will make a big difference to you, particularly if you've got a TT bike. Get it set up for you and get that. That's well worth investing in. And the final one, which I mentioned on the free of charge section, is around what you've got on your bike. If you've got a road bike, put aero bars on it. Those aero bars again will be saving you well over a minute. They add a big chunk onto your speed that you can carry, and get those aero bars clipped onto your bike and use them. They're not expensive, quite easy to fit, and if you get it fitted and set up well for you, it can be quite comfortable too. The next item then is obviously the high cost. So all of those things we've talked about, if you've gone from the worst end to the best end of those, so you've bought all the low cost stuff, you've sorted out all the free of charge things, you've probably spent maybe, if you haven't done the bike fit, forget the bike fit, you've probably spent £200, and you could potentially have saved yourself there 4 or 5 minutes on a 40k time trial if you get them all right. It's well worth paying attention to all that lot, because the high cost things will make less difference than the low cost and the medium cost ones and the free of charge things. So the high cost ones are obviously an aero bike first of all, then aero bike with the aero bars on it, a dedicated TT bike, which is worth having if you're intending to spend a lot of time and money on the sport moving forward. It's worth investing in. The wheels, so getting deep dish wheels, front and back, or even a disc wheel on the rear, they will all make a difference to your performance. But the difference between a full disc and a deep dish, a sort of 60mm wheel, is only about 23 seconds, so much less than some of those other things. So it's less having a disc wheel than it's putting shoe covers on. So spend 1,500 quid on a disc or 15 quid on some shoe covers, and it's a bit of a no-brainer, really. And then other components. There's all sorts of other components you can buy to make your bike more aerodynamic, and they go exponentially more expensive for exponentially less gain. And you'll see obviously the high-end riders doing it, but not a lot for most of us to gain for a huge amount of money. Okay, so there was one other thing I did forget, of course, on the free of charge. I put it down as my number one, which is shave your legs. It might sound daft. It does sound daft, but it makes a difference. And if it makes a difference and it's free of charge, why not do it? Why not do it? Yeah, even you, James, if you're listening. I'm not sure if he's there. Okay, on friction then. So friction is the next one. So friction is generally happening in the main through the drivetrain on the bike. So the main ways of saving friction and reducing friction is to make sure you maintain your bike properly. So clean it regularly, lube it regularly, so keep that chain properly lubricated. Understand what you need to do, what you're supposed to do to keep a bike well cleaned and lubricated. There's loads of videos out there to look at. GCN, Global Cycling Network, is really good for that. They've got all sorts of videos on all sorts of subjects, particularly on cleaning your bike and lubing the chain. If you can't do anything else, the one thing I would suggest you do is every time you finish a ride or just before you start a ride, get a rag, wipe down your chain, and put some fresh lube on it. Every single ride you do, even if you're not cleaning it, that's going to do it a world of good. And make your chain last longer, make your running gear last longer, and it will reduce friction. And friction just creates extra effort for you, which makes you slower. The next one on friction, which is free of charge and probably has the biggest difference on these things, is tyre pressures. So know what pressure you should be riding your bike at based on the tyres that you have and your own weight. Again, there are loads of charts out there that say what they are. If you want some help with that, I can help point you in the right direction. Just drop me a message. Typically, you'll find that for the range of bikes and tyres that we have and riders that we have, we'll be somewhere between 80 and 110 psi. If you've got an older bike with very narrow tyres, tubular tyres 23 mil or less, you might be a bit higher than that. Tubulars were designed to be much higher pressure. If you've got tubeless tyres, you can be operating successfully at much lower range, particularly if they're up at 25 or 28 mil tyres. But I can't tell you what it is for you because it'll be dependent on your weight and on equally on the tyre itself. And it's also worth thinking about how you're going to use that bike. So, for example, on the 10-mile TT I did at Mallory Park last week, I pumped my tyres up to the absolute maximum pressure they can take because it's a super smooth surface. There's no lumps and bumps to worry about. I can therefore afford to do that without having any problems. The reason you want a softer tyre pressure, a lower tyre pressure, is it makes the ride more comfortable, deals with all the lumps and ruts and bumps that you get on a normal road surface, and can actually be faster on those in those circumstances because it's dealing with them well. It's like the difference of taking the suspension out of your car and driving it on the road. It would slow it down compared with having suspension which softens it up. But if you can stiffen it up on a track, then go ahead and do so. So that's it for the sort of free of charge stuff on friction. On lower cost areas for improving speed, tyres would be the first option. Following that same one, it's about reducing the rolling resistance of those tyres. There's a really good website called bicyclerollingresistance.com. Again, I'll post a link to this after the video. They have a whole list of different tyres that they've done reviews on. They rate them in terms of their overall performance. They rate them in terms of their puncture resistance, and they also do a lab test on their rolling resistance. So it will show you basically the amount of watts that you'll be using against a baseline for each tyre under different tyre pressures. And just to give you a couple of examples to show the difference that can make. So a Continental Grand Prix 5000 tubeless tyre inflated to 100 psi creates about 8.9 watts of drag. If you were to look at the older, I'm trying to find it on here now, an old Continental, here's a better one, Michelin Pro 4 Endurance tyre, which is quite a classic one for people that use an everyday bike. That's 14.9, so it's 6 watts extra of effort to get you to the same place. The classic Continental Grand Prix 4000 is somewhere between the 211, and I suspect on a lot of the road bikes that you'll get, and the tyres that will come on them, they will be well over, or those numbers way up to the high teens and early 20s. So you could be saving something like 10 watts quite easily by changing to one of the better tyres. And a pair of those tyres is going to cost you something like £80 or £90. They're not the cheapest things, but they make a big difference, and you'll feel that difference as well. They should give you a better ride, and probably better handling as well. The second item on there you can spend a bit of money on, a better lube. Make sure you understand what lubes are the best ones for your bike and where you're using them, whether you use them on the chain or on other components. Get a decent lube, and that can make a difference. Can be into the watts, but it's still quite low. If you're not comfortable at maintaining your bike yourself, get a professional service, get it regularly done. That will make a big difference as well to the overall performance. So do the very basic stuff yourself. If you can't do the rest, then make sure it's done regularly. Chain replacement is something to watch for. A worn chain which is stretched or damaged will be causing additional friction, will be slowing you down, will be making extra effort. So just be aware of checking your chain relatively regularly. A chain should last a couple of thousand miles, so should last a year or so, but you do get them checked out from time to time. In terms of high cost stuff on friction, there's not a lot you can do, but you can spend a fortune on ceramic bearings, custom prepared chains, and all sorts of things, and they make tiny differences. Just like some of the high cost components you can get for the aero side, tiny differences. But if you're after every single second and you've got £1,000 to spend on bearing set for your bike, feel free. Okay, fine. Next, power. Right, this is behind aero. This is probably the biggest impact. So, 3 considerations when you're doing a bike fit for somebody are their comfort, their aerodynamic position and the power they can get into the bike. So obviously today we're not talking about comfort, we're just talking about speed. So aerodynamics and power are the two biggest things. So what can we do to help improve your power? Cycle more. Mark Cavendish was famously asked, "How do you become a better cyclist?" Cycle more was his simple answer. So more cycling will help, but getting that focused and keeping some variation in there is important. So for me, I always try and cycle at least twice a week, all year round. Not a huge amount more than that. Sometimes 3, maybe 4 times a week, but all year round, never stop. And it's important that you keep that going. And I will always have one short, hard, fast session, either with intervals or with hills, something where I can really push on to give, just like you would on a track session and running. You're really pushing hard to get that heart rate working, really stressing the muscles in your legs, so you're building power in those legs. And the second session you should try and incorporate, particularly for those that are looking at doing longer distances, is a more easy, longer distance ride. So combining those two and then fitting other things in around that is important. In terms of other things other than what you can do on the bike itself, strength and conditioning training is really good, particularly if you're doing some weights. I put a comment on one of Kerry's posts yesterday about some weight training she was doing that would really benefit power generation in cycling. General interval running training, HIIT training, all of those things that build your cardio fitness, that build the strength in your legs, will be all helpful to your power on the bike. You've just got to think about the muscle groups that you use on the bike, particularly. The muscle group, if you're on a road bike, is going to be mainly your quads. If you're on a TT bike or on aero bars, you can have a good balance between your quads, your glutes, and your hamstrings. So it's making sure that you get the good use of those. And it's another reason why getting a good bike fit and a good bike positioning makes a big difference to how much power you can put down onto the road. Because if you can utilize all 3 of those big muscle sets, you can get a huge amount more power down than you will ever do if you're just using your quads. For me, I'm mixing and matching my muscle groups so I can actually feel which ones I'm engaging and when I'm engaging them, particularly when I'm in an aero position down on the bars. So you can actually choose to give some muscles a rest if you're feeling that the lactic's kicking in and causing problems for that. It's something you just need to get down and practice. See if you can actually go down on your aero bars and see if you can use the pull action more to engage your glutes and your hamstrings. So if you've got your cleats on your bike, and we'll come on to that one in a second, assuming most of you will have cleats, the push and pull motion is absolutely critical because the push is using the predominantly the glute, predominantly the quads. The pull is using more of the hamstring and the glutes. So keeping that cycle going is using more of those different muscle groups. Nutrition, to get more power. Nutrition, make sure you're eating well, drinking well, know what your body needs. We're all a bit different on that. I'm no expert in nutrition, so I'm not going to give you any more on that today. But absolutely critical. Consistency, as I said, all year round. Make sure you don't have big long times off. A week or 2 here and there is fine. If you have a gap in October, November, December, when you decide I don't want to ride for a few weeks because I just want to have a rest or the weather's really rubbish. Every now and again, missing out a week or 2 is not going to be a problem, but try and have that consistency all year round. And that doesn't matter whether that's on a turbo inside or whether that's outside on a bike. Just keeping those legs used to doing those actions and constantly building and repairing themselves is the important thing. And then that bike fit and position is key. So all of those are, again, as I said, relatively low cost. They're things we should be doing all the time. If you've got the bikes and you've got the stuff, get on and do it. Things which are low to medium cost, pedals and cleats, I mentioned it. If you haven't got pedals with cleats on, and I'd recommend either the SPD SLs by Shimano or the Look Keo cleats, which really lock your feet in really well and allow you to get proper power up and down. Then I'd highly recommend them. I know some people don't like it and it take a little bit of getting used to, but that's a confidence issue. If I can do it, Amanda can do it, anyone can do it, we can all do it. It's just about practice and getting used to it. Second one then is club coaching. We will hopefully be having more more coaching going on at some point when we get free of the current COVID situation. So clearly, any club coaching you can get will be beneficial to you, or if you can get on some little courses, one-on-one courses, that will be helpful, all at relatively low cost. Then more expensive are the premium end. A one-to-one coach. If you can get a one-to-one coach, you can afford a one-to-one coach. You should make leaps and bounds in generating more power and improving your fitness and your strength. Should make a massive difference to you. Getting a bespoke training plan done for whatever the event is that you're aiming at, so that you're aligning your power generation up to the way you're going to be applying it. Also very useful. In fact, anyone that's doing a longer event should have their own bespoke training plan for that. Angie and I can help you look at those when the time is right. So either of us or both of us, if you want us to do so. And the final expensive one is a power meter. I personally don't have one. I like to ride by feel. I've thought about getting one and then always spend the money on something else instead. But power meters are something that will allow you to understand whether you are actually generating more power doing one thing than something else. It will help you learn more about what you are doing. And if you have the money to spend on them, everyone that's had them, I think, likes them a lot. I'm sure I'll get one sometime. Gravity, then we'll move on to gravity. Gravity, yes, gravity has an impact on all of us. It mainly has an impact on hilly courses. If the course is flat, it doesn't actually matter how much you weigh, particularly. It's a little bit on acceleration, there's a little bit on the effort to pull you forward, but the power to weight is more important, and it has less impact. Unfortunately, most of the courses that we have to cycle on, particularly in the UK, are not flat. And therefore gravity has impact on us. So what can we do free of charge? The obvious one, make sure you know what your ideal weight should be and do your best to get closer to it. That will help massively. Don't try and spend £1,000 trying to save a few grams off your bike. If you can just have a better diet, better exercise routine, and knock a few kilos off yourself. That is without a doubt the easiest way not necessarily the easiest way, the cheapest way, and the biggest and best way to reduce the weight of what you have on the bike. The second one then is simple as well. Only carry what you need, and that's particularly important in a race. Obviously, if you're out training, it doesn't matter if you're carrying more. It's just going to make you work harder. It's going to help your training. But if you're in a race, only carry what you need. If you normally have a toolkit sat on the back of your bike and you're not going to use it in the race, take it off. If you've got a sprint race where a puncture is going to be a disaster, don't take a spare puncture kit, particularly if it's a hilly course. If you get a puncture, it's likely to be the most of it is going to be as a 5-mile walk home. So don't take anything you don't need, and definitely don't take anything you don't know how to use. So strip all those things down. If you've only got one drink bottle on your bike for the ride, take the spare drink bottle holder off. Take anything off the bike you do not need for that race. Light mounts, all those kind of things, just take them off. They all make a difference. They'll all actually create a bit of drag as well. So actually taking those things off will help with the aerodynamics, but they'll also help reduce weight. And the final one follows a similar angle, which is remove accessories. So as I said, if you've got lights on there, take them off, and things like that. Only have what you need for the ride that you're going to be doing. In terms of spending a bit more money, what can you do to save a bit of weight if you're spending a little bit of money? Lighter components is the first thing to go for. Tires and tubes, again, can make a big difference. So going back to that same question about the rolling resistance on the tires, you'll also save weight if you get some better tires, almost certainly. So well worth looking at tires, and the weight that's saved around the perimeter of a wheel has a much bigger impact on your overall performance than the weight saved elsewhere. So lighter tires, lighter wheels, they will make a difference if you're willing to spend some money. The tires, if it's not a tubeless, obviously the inner tubes as well. The inner tubes typically come with a bike, will weigh something like 130, 140 grams. You can probably get 60, 70 gram ones for £5 or £6. So you can halve the weight of your tubes. You can knock a similar amount of weight off your tyres, and before you know it, if you're multiplying that by 4, 2 tubes, 2 tyres, you've knocked quite a bit of weight off the bike. Just to put that in context, The difference in weight. So I think if you're going from a standard set of tyres and tubes to a race set of tyres and tubes, will probably save you something like 200 grams, maybe 250 grams across the whole of the bike. I did a little calculation on the difference between Shimano 105 group set, Ultegra group set, and Dura Ace group set. Now, there's obviously some quality issues around those as you step up as well, but one of the bigger sells about them is the weight loss. Going from 105 to Ultegra saves you 200 grams. Going from Ultegra to Dura Ace saves you another 300 grams. So for spending 100 quid on tyres and tubes, you can save a similar amount to going from either 105 to Ultegra or Ultegra to Dura Ace. Obviously, if you can afford to do the lot, it's going to make a big difference. But you're talking about a big expense there. So tyres and tubes are the first thing to do to save weight. Obviously, then if you're looking at spending lots of money, that better group set will make a difference, or any of the components from that group set. So changing the cassette or the chain ring, or any single one of those components will make a difference bit by bit. Or obviously a lighter bike all round. You tend to find TT bikes and aero road bikes are not particularly light because they're not designed specifically for going up hills. They're designed for going as fast as they can in a straight line. So you tend to find typically for triathlon, you're not going to have the lightest bike. I wouldn't worry about it too much. As I said, the main thing to do is just sort out the components you can sort out, which aren't too expensive. Lose some weight if you're carrying too much weight. Don't if you're not, and get rid of all the stuff that you don't need. Okay, moving on to momentum. There's nothing in here that you have to spend any money on. So momentum, just to be clear, is the speed that you're carrying through the course. Now, either up and down hills, through corners, whatever that might be. Momentum is free speed. If you are braking a lot, slowing down more than you need to, you're wasting energy that you've already put into the bike, and you're not benefiting from the speed that energy has already been expended on. So you want to be braking less and using that momentum to carry you through the course, because that is free energy, or it's already expended energy. So plan ahead is the first one. So if you've got a race coming up, have a look at the bike course, see exactly what it does, find out where the hills are, look what the descents look like on that course. Are they straight lines? Do they have bends in them? Are there bends that you need to worry about? Google Maps is a wonderful thing, so you can have a look on that these days. You can actually go onto Street View and have a look at what might be happening down on the ground. Obviously, you have to adapt to what happens on the day, because if somebody pulls out from a junction or a kid walks across the street, you need to be able to deal with that and handle that. But assuming that everything behaves as normal, you can plan ahead as to where you think you might have difficulties around managing that course. So well worth spending some time before you go there and doing that. When you get there, if you have time, go and drive around the course or ride around the course before the race, because you'll then get an even better feel for what that course is going to be like when you're on it. Again, you'll spot any areas of difficulty that you might encounter, and be able to plan ahead and know that they're coming, and know how you're going to deal with those. In terms of cornering, the general principle for cornering is just like with the car, it's slow in, fast out. So if you know you are going to have to slow down in a corner, scrub that speed off before you get to the corner. So you're off the brakes as you're coming in the corner. It gives you much better control of the bike. And so as you're then turning into the corner, you should be coming off the brakes and letting the momentum of the bike carry you through. And so as you're exiting the corner, you're starting to accelerate through that downhill corner. And then really just get out there and practice. Really practice those bike skills. If you really aren't confident about doing it, then try and do it in a more controlled environment. George is getting very excited about something. I think he thought there was a delivery coming, but there isn't. So really get out there and practice those skills. So Mallory Park is really good for that. You've got bends, you've got chicanes there that you can use to practice your turning. Really push yourself there in those kind of environments. Start leaning the bike more, seeing what happens, get more confident in that. Get out into roads that you know well, practice those maneuvers, do it at slow speed, gradually build the speed up, You'll find you can go generally much faster than you think you could have done through a lot of bends and through a lot of situations, and really get out there and practice. And really on those downhills, if you're scared of descending, as I said, all you can do really is get out there and practice. But it is free speed, so do your best to use as much of it as you possibly can. Okay, I think I've covered most things there. The final one being psychology, and it comes onto that some of those last points really. That generally speaking, most of you and most of us can go faster than we think we can. Um, just got to push yourself more. Sometimes you've got to be a little bit more confident, and really find out where your limits are. Um, I think one of my personal mottos is if you don't fall off, you haven't found out where your limits are. And I'm not suggesting you fall off, but you probably need to push yourself more towards that point, where you feel like so you know where your limit is, and try and do that in a safe environment, rather than practice those things when you're out on the track, when you're out on in a race. So practice your slowing down. So practice that braking as you're coming into corners, releasing the brakes and making sure you're then accelerating through corners, particularly on descents. Practice that turning. Remember, a bike works by leaning. It's designed to lean. So don't be afraid of letting it lean, and practice those things and practice the descending and find some nice descents which are nice and clear and open that and go down them. Don't go down them on windy days. If you particularly if you've got crosswinds coming in, if you're descending at 30 mile an hour plus with crosswinds coming in and battering you, it can be really quite off-putting. So try and find good days to go out and practice and really build those skills up, and get that confidence growing in your head. The second one is on the power side about are you actually pushing as hard as you can? Do you really know where your limit is? And often I think you'll find that you can push harder than you thought you can. And one of the interesting things about the triathlon, it's only been over the last year or so I've really pushed as hard as I could on the bike sections, and found that it's not hampered my run that much. I always held back, thinking I need to hold back because I've got a run to come, so I need to hold back so I can hit the run. But I was able to be knocking off 2 minutes on the bike, and it was costing me 30 seconds on the run. Now that might not be the same for you. You need to know where your own skills and strengths are. But what I'm saying is, if you don't try, if you don't give it a full out bike run on one of these triathlons and then see what happens on the run, or you don't try it in a practice session, so you do a brick run session where you go absolutely absolutely hammering it for 10 miles on your bike, come off, and then try and run. If you don't try that, you won't know whether you actually need to hold something back, and I think, or how much you need to hold back. And I think often we'll find that we're holding back more than we perhaps need to do. So to practice it, and then go and when we're allowed to race again, go and put it into action. Okay, so in summary, what would I do? No cost. So the top few things that I would focus on most of all, no cost things. First of all, make sure your weight's in the right place. No point in carrying any excess weight. Doesn't do us any favors at all. But equally, don't lose too much weight. Make sure your weight is where it should be and as close to that as you possibly can. Work on that body position. That body position is critical, and some of the strength and conditioning work you can do around that won't just build your strength, but will reduce your build your flexibility. Flexibility will allow you to get into better and more aerodynamic positions, and that will give you free speed. So yeah, work on that body position. Mix the training up. Don't, as I said, don't just do one type of riding. Don't always go out long and slow, or always go out short and fast. Mix it up, and then you'll build endurance from the long and slow, and you'll build strength from the short and fast. Plan ahead. That's planning ahead in terms of your racing, planning ahead in terms of your training plans, and all the rest of it. Plan ahead. The time spent looking at what might be coming next is well worth it, and setting yourself some goals and targets from that. Correct fitting clothes. Ideally, if you can, get an aero suit, an aero speed suit. The club has them as kit. If not, if you want to get your own ones, you can get them as well. They will make a difference. Those over separates, and certainly if you're wearing a normal cycle jersey or a flappy jacket, just don't, just don't. No flappy jackets unless it's absolutely chucking it down or freezing cold. Even if you do need to have a jacket for racing, find one that fits well. If you think you're going to be racing in October or March and it might be cold, get a jacket that fits tightly and snugly, not one that flaps around. It's just going to cost you so much time. Um, Believe in yourself. Yeah, believe you can be better than you currently are, because you can, almost certainly. So believe in yourself. Um, and they're finally the last one at no cost. If you haven't done it already, shave your legs. Okay, at cost. What are the few things I do? Um, Aero bars, probably, or the speed suit if you want to put it into that. probably I'd put that one first. Buy that speed suit. Um, buy those shoe covers if you're going to be doing TTs. They're an absolute bargain and cost you naffle for a really good gain. Aero helmet will make a big difference on any length of triathlon or TT. As I said, they don't have to be expensive. 40 quid, really good value from somewhere like Planet X. Spending again, tires and tubes make a huge difference. That's the first thing. If I buy a new bike, the first thing I will replace the tires and the tubes if it's not a tubeless one. Without a doubt, that they're the cheapest bit of rubbish normally that comes with the bike and the easiest thing and cheapest thing to upgrade. Aero bars, if you've got a road bike, get aero bars on it, make a massive difference to your performance on a road bike. You're talking about a couple of minutes over 40k. And then finally, it will be wheels. If you want to spend more money, the first thing to do will be wheels, getting deeper dish, more aerodynamic wheels, and get them second hand. Don't buy new, just buy carefully. Look on eBay, Marketplace, obviously on our own sell and swap stuff. You can get some really good bargains out there. So there we go. That's my summary on things you can do. Hopefully there were some useful hints and tips in there. If there's just one or two of those that make a difference to you, then you'll have gained something. I hope that's helped. I will post some links after this in relation to the rolling resistance site, to some aerodynamic testing which shows the kind of difference you can get by those different body positions, and some good, bad, and ugly positions on the bike as well. So thanks very much for listening. Hope that was useful. Have a lovely weekend, and I'm going to have a beer. Thank you very much.